Well, how's it going, everyone? Good afternoon. My name is Nick Birkhimer, for those who don't know me, and I'm a technology specialist here at FarmQA. And I'm really excited to be talking about some of our new features that we have here to kind of wrap up your 2023. Again, thanks for joining us here on this lovely winter day. Hopefully, we can show you some really cool stuff here that we've been working hard to add in the software. So, kind of giving an idea of what our agenda is going to look like. We have some updates to existing features that I want to go over, as well as some new features that we've been working hard to add in. So things that I want that if we have updates to include how you collect soil samples from the FarmQA mobile app, creating management zone profiles, which is going to be really great for helping you efficiently go in and create management zones and write prescriptions for all your fields, and some updates to prescription writing, which includes getting a nice prescription load sheet that you can share with your growers and give them an idea of what you applied with your prescription in a really nice little one pager. Now, for some new topics, these are some fresh things that we've added into the software recently that can provide you more value and help you get more done with FarmQA. So the one that we're really excited about is talking about spray records. That's been a feature that we've added here in the last couple months, and that's a great way to help you and your clients get compliance done. So we're going to be able to show you how to get your exports for your spray records. You can do stuff like add applicators to your spray records to show who actually applied all of those products. And we're going to be able to give you some fantastic exports that you can share for compliance reasons or share to your growers. We also have some great ways to import and look at yield data for your fields that we want to talk about to help you make some more informed decisions about your fields and what you want to do with them in your subsequent years. Now, that's kind of an overview of what we're going to be covering today. We've got a lot to get to, so I think I'm just going to go and dive right into it and we can get started. So, I want to get started today with talking about what we can do with soil sampling now. So it's a very similar workflow, but to kind of catch up, I'm going to go over how to create a grid soil sampling task in FarmQA because that's kind of where this all starts. So from the web app, you're going to want to go to fields over here, and then you're going to want to select the field that you want to go and sample. I'm going to click here on the FarmQA office, and we're going to click on schedule task, and you can select any one of these tasks. Now, for soil sampling, it might be a little misleading since we have a few different options here between grid sampling, soil sample, and zone sampling. All of these are still soil sampling tasks, so you still have the ability to create a grid sample with them. But the distinction between grid sampling and soil sample is that the grid sampling is a custom task that we created. That's mostly just there to give whoever is actually doing the task an idea of what they're supposed to be doing. But regardless, between all of these, you have the same functionality to add your grid soil samples. So to hop in here, let's click on soil sample, and then we'll click here on the field to go in and define our locations. Now, once this loads, you're able to get an outline of your field to see where your sample points are going to be at. We have a couple different drawing tools for you. As of right now, by default, we have the add point selected. You can just go around and click and add points wherever. But for grid sampling, let's click on the grid over here. And now we kind of have these grid points that are automatically defined. Now, the two things that really define them are this kind of big circle in the middle. You can use that to drag your points around and kind of pick where the center is to best center your points within the field. And then over in the upper right-hand corner, you can pick how many acres each point is representative of. We'll usually default to 1, but in this case, since the field is so small, we're going to bring that down a little bit. I'm going to drop that back down to 0.5. And then when I'm happy, all I've got to do is click this check button over here. I get to review it on the screen before clicking save and moving on. So now that our points have been defined, I can go put in some more information about this task. So a couple things that I want to do here, I can click my sample depth. I want all these to be 0 to 6. I can put in start after and finish by dates, just kind of provide a rough outline for when I want this soil sampling to be completed. And I'm going to assign this to myself. I can save that. And now that task is saved in the system and ready to go. So now whenever I actually go out into the field and hop into my mobile app, I'm able to go in and get soil sampling started. So as always, whenever you log into your mobile app, make sure that you go in and sync things up. This is just to make sure that any new work items or any changes to your fields, things like that are going to get brought down into your mobile app. So now I can go here, I can click on work, and you can see that I have this new task waiting for me ready to go. So click on this task, and then you'll click this arrow down here to take you automatically into the field so you can see everything. So now where the big updates are is you can see we have not only my location here, but there's this red line drawn between me and the nearest soil sampling point to myself. So this is a great way that you can actually go and get an idea of where you want to go sample and better have a sampling plan when you get into the field, aside from just we're going to be grid sampling, because now we'll let you navigate to these points point by point to kind of get that going for you. When you're ready to go and collect your sample, you'll be right on top of it, or you can do it ad hoc if you're a little bit further away from it. You'll click on the sampling location, and then you have two real options for how you're going to go in and put in barcodes. So for barcodes, they can either just be any tag that you're putting on the bag to kind of keep track of which sample is from where in the field, or you can have an actual barcode from Agvise, for example, if you're using that, and you can scan that in. Now, it doesn't show up great on my computer, but what I can do is give an idea of what it looks like, and this is kind of taken from our support article library. So how this will look approximately is that when you click on the point, you're going to see this first image here on the left, and you'll have a rough outline that shows you where you want to put your barcode. So get your barcode to fit right here within this little square, and then we'll automatically snap and say, okay, this is the barcode that we scanned in. If that's the approximate barcode and everything's okay there, you can click OK, and then we will confirm that that's the point that you want to, that's the point where you want to put that barcode in. So very slick process. And again, if you have that option, it's a fantastic way to easily get those soil sample barcodes associated with that location. Now, the other option is that if you don't have the barcodes and you're going with something more simple, let's say I just want to have samples 1 through 8 in this field, I'll kind of go from there. What you can do whenever you see this screen is you can just put 1 in here and click OK. And you'll see a couple things happened. First off, this point that previously was the blue marker is now a brown one that signifies that, yes, you have collected that point and you're ready to keep moving on. We also are now directing you to the next closest point. So you see the red line is now going to my next location, and I have my distance over there. What also happens is that now, since we kind of started our numeric sequence, you can go in and we'll adjust these up by 1 each time you go. So instead of having to click on the point, put in 1, and then click in, put 2, et cetera, et cetera. 2's automatically put in here, so that kind of saves you another button to press while you're in the field. So I can click OK, go on to my next point. 3 is already loaded in, and it really simplifies and quickens up the process of me going out and sampling in the field. Now, once you're done with this, as with other tasks, you'll just click the check down here. With sampling, we also have the sampling progress pane down here in the bottom of the screen. So if you do need to leave the task for whatever reason, leave the field to take care of something, we are going to give you an idea of how far along you are with this task so that you can go and estimate how long it'll take to get that done. Or of course, you can look in on people's tasks and see how far completed they are with their task. So once that's done, you'll click check, submit, and that task has been completed. So that's a great way for you guys to be able to speed up your soil sampling process and get all of that work done as that time comes around in the future. Now, another thing that we did add to soil sampling is we did add an Agvise Lab integration as well. Now, if you want to get this set up, just go and contact FarmQA support. We'll be able to turn on the license for you that'll allow you to go and get your lab data imported. Now, what'll happen then is once you have your lab integration enabled from FarmQA, all you're really going to want to do is go here to the soils page, go over here to labs, and then under Agvise, you'll go in and you'll click add new lab here. So now what you'll do is you'll put in something like Agvise lab integration, and then you'll put in your API key. We have a great support article written on this topic, but basically what you'll do is that you're going to go hop into your Agvise account, go into your settings and copy in your API key, and then you'll paste that in here. What that does is that whenever your soil sample data gets processed by Agvise, all of that's going to be automatically brought in to these locations. So for example, here, I have these reference numbers. This reference number corresponds to the barcode that I scanned in. So whenever that data is ready, we'll be able to use this reference number to tie any data with that soil test back to this location. So that's a great way to be able to automatically scoop in your data and bring that down into your FarmQA account that we can then use to create management zones, write prescriptions, just view the data, anything like that that we might want to do. Speaking of which, we've also added some functionality to our management zone workflow that'll kind of help it make it easier for you to keep writing zone after zone as you go through your fields. So to do that, I'm going to go pop over here to another one of my farms where I have an existing data set for one of my fields. So to kind of review the workflow for management zones, all you have to do is you go over here to soil. Under the samples tab, you're going to go select whichever field you want to go and create some management zones for. And then you're going to go up here to the top of the page and click Create Management Zone. So now let's say here that I want to create, this one's going to be potassium in my fields. I'm going to go down here to Attribute, and I'm going to use this drop down to select whichever soil property I want to use to go ahead and create this management zone for. So since we're doing potassium, I'll click K here, and then pop down to clustering algorithm. Now, for the most part, I mean, generally for soils, I kind of like using the natural breaks. What the natural break algorithm does is that it finds, as the name implies, natural breaks in the data set to go and kind of use to create your management zones a little more naturally. But I do recommend kind of playing around with these if you're kind of making them for the first time, and just to see kind of which one works best or which one could be most applicable for your fields or your operation. Now going from here, number of zones, 5 zones sounds pretty good to me for now, but then I'll click Preview, and we'll generate that zone for you to look over. So this is kind of a rough idea of where your distribution is in the field. Now, what the cluster groups here are going to be for is this is where you're going to determine where you want your cutoffs to be for all of your samples. So for here, let's say that I want my first group to be under 100, 100 to 120, 140, and then 160. And this is what I'm happy with ultimately with having my zones be at. So I'll click Preview. And now if I'm happy with this, I can go in and I can create a zone. I can go ahead and create management zones for this. But when you think about it, that can be a little cumbersome to want to do that every single time going through this process. So if you do have a lot of zones to create for, let's say, any one of these soil properties that you might be looking at, you can go ahead and click Save Profile instead. I'm going to call this Potassium Profile, and I'm going to click Save. So now I've saved this profile. I'm going to go ahead and finish creating this zone. But now as I go through, I can go ahead and access that profile for any one of my other fields. Now, it's important to note that this isn't just exclusive to any kind of soil property. You can go apply these to any one of your zones or any one of your soil properties, my mistake. So now whenever I'm getting started, let's say that I want to go ahead and create a potassium zone here as well. I'm going to click on K. Click Select Profile, and I'm going to go find the profile that I want to apply. So now you'll see here, I go down, and all of those zones that I already made, those are going to be automatically brought in as well. So when I click Preview here, it's going to generate this based off of those zones that I created previously. So now if I'm happy with this, and this is kind of what I want to go with, I can go in and I can click Create. And then we have this management zone that'll be created, and we'll kind of roll with that. So that's ultimately how we can use creating management zone profiles to save you time as you go through and create these zones. Again, the idea is that we're basically just copying your zone breaks over between these fields so that you can use that instead of having to manually go and create those time after time. All this potassium zones, create, and we're good to go. So that's how we're going to speed up your process here for creating your management zones. Now, moving on from there, we can talk a little bit about prescription writing and some updates we've made to prescription writing as well. So for writing prescriptions, there's a couple different places you can go to start writing those in the first place. One of them was, as you saw, when we were creating our zones previously. I can go in here. I'm just going to get one of these set up quick. Call this up potassium zones. Click Preview. Now I can go in here, click this, and I can create this zone with the prescription as well and hop right into our prescription writing tool here from the soils page. Another workflow that we have for this is you can go back to the map tab, and you can go and click on any one of the fields that you want to go in and write a prescription for, as long as those already have zones created for them. So again, hopping back to my demo farm, I'm going to go up here And now once you click on the field in the slide out map pane over here, you'll see there's this more option with the 3 dots on it. You'll go down here and then you'll click on management zones. From here, you'll see I have my pre-existing management zone that I created just now. And then I have these 3 options here as well. So I can go here, I can edit the management zone, but the important thing I want to do here is create my prescription. So now in the create prescription page, we have a few different options for how you want to go ahead and write your prescription. So first off here, this is where we start to define what we're actually creating the prescription for. So let's say for this one specifically, I want to use my potassium zone for doing, let's just say, for example, urea and potash. So these are the 2 attributes that I'm ultimately going to be filling out with this management zone. Let's give each a precision of 1. And this is just how many decimals we're ultimately going to be putting on the values for this. And then I'm going to click next to get into the actual writing page. So the big change that we've made here is that now you can actually get a preview of your zone over here on the right-hand side. You can imagine if you have a bunch of different management zones created for this field, there could potentially be some mistakes made in terms of which ones you select. But now we're able to kind of give you a preview of that just so you know this is the zone that I kind of want to be working with. So when we go in, we can now start defining the values that we're going to be using to apply to each of these zones. So let's say here that in my upper range, I want this to be 300 to 0. And I'm going to fill this in. And I'm going to do something similar over here with potash. We'll say 200 to 100. Now, instead of going through and filling out each of these incrementally, what I'm able to do here is that I have this fill button where I can drop down and we're going to programmatically fill in these values as you go down. Again, another great little time-saving tool that you can use to go in and make sure that all of this gets fixed up. So just want to make sure that everything was set up properly here. Give you another example of this. Now, if you go in and let's say you happen to make a mistake, let's say instead of 200, I put in 5 and filled everything out, and now everything's really wonky, I can go through here and I can clear this out. By pressing this clear button, that's going to clear out everything just in the column that I'm working in, so either in urea or potash. So now I can start over, fill it down, and now if I'm happy with this, I'll go over here and click the download button. So now this will save as a zip file that I can use to go and bring into John Deere or a similar kind of system that you're using to apply your prescription. So the RX folder is ultimately what's going to be going in. And then, of course, we have our files within here, the database file, the projection, and the 2 shape files. So all of this is ready to be imported into a My John Deere system, and it can be imported and applied as a prescription. So now the prescription doesn't just get exported, it actually continues to live within FarmQA. And I can show you guys where that's going to be and where you can go find that. So we're going to go over here, click on fields. And then you're going to go over here and click on prescriptions. So now this is where all of my previously written prescriptions are going to live within the product. So I have a couple different options for how I want to export these and how I can share them. So first off, over here, I can export all of these to Excel. That's just going to end up and give me a list of everything that I've been working with. So this list is going to show me the data that was created, the field it's for, the products that were applied, and which management zone map that I use to actually create these. So great way to get a little overview and to share that page with folks who want to just get an overview of this is what I was doing to my fields. Now, if you want to go dive a little bit further in, we have options to get this exported as what we call a load sheet or to re-download that prescription as well so you don't have to rewrite it. So for this prescription I just wrote, for example, I can click on this export button, and then I have multiple export options. So at the top here, this export to shapefile, that's similar to what we just did in terms of just downloading that to that zip shapefile that you can go upload to My John Deere and then go apply that prescription. But down here, this is where we kind of get into the load sheet. Again, the load sheet is just a one-pager that shows the ultimate map that you have, as well as the products that you apply to each of your zones to give your growers or anyone else who might want to see it, an idea of what was applied, where that was applied, and the amount that was applied. So all this kind of information here, we can just go ahead and we can take a look at how we want the map in the background to look, the header and logo options that you want, and the orientation and size. But for the most part, just want to go in here and click export. And then once it downloads, we'll have this one page that you can go off and share with your customers. And of course, as with other export options we have, you can export multiple ones at the same time, just to get that as one big PDF that you want to go and send off to folks. So a couple things that I want to point out here as we move down the load sheet. Looking at the top of the page, you can see I have my company logo here, as well as the farm and the field where this was applied. At the very top here, you can also see right away what attributes are here. So what I'm ultimately applying here, that being urea and potash. Going down, this is where you actually get the overview of the quantity of product that was applied. So within each of my zones, you can see the ranges of values for each of these zones. Again, knowing that we used our potassium zone, those are our potassium values for each of these. We also have the total area for the total area of each zone, so you can get an idea of the area over which product was applied, the quantity of product, and then some of our product totals to get an idea of what our shopping cart could be, for example, for this specific application. You also have a better idea of where the location of this field is, because we include the latitude and longitude of that right here underneath the field. And this corresponds to the center of the field, but it'll give you a great idea of where this is actually located. So here's a full overview of what this sheet looks like. So this is the other export option that we provide for you for your prescriptions, and it's a great way to kind of give other members on your team and your growers an idea of what was applied, how it was applied, and where it was applied for your products. So that's what prescriptions load sheets look like, and those are kind of our big new updates we have to previously existing features. So now moving on, we're going to start talking about some of our newer features that we've added into the product, and I really want to spend a bunch of time now on our new spray records feature. Again, we're really excited about this. We worked really hard to get this out this fall, but let's go hop in and let's talk about some things that we can do with spray records. Sorry, I'm just moving some stuff around here. Awesome. So one of the coolest things about spray records is that you can go in and you can make members of your organization's actual applicators for this. So if they have their applicator license, we can go in and store that information with the spray record in FarmQA so that you can get a better idea and track what was applied, where it was applied, and who applied it. So to do that, we're going to go over here to Advice, and then we're going to click on applicators. So this is the page where you can go start adding in applicators to your account. Note here that there is a user account that has to be associated with this. So you're going to want to give your applicators FarmQA access so they can go have access to this as well. So now if I want to go in here to create a new applicator, just click on that blue button on the bottom of the screen. We're going to call this Crop Scout Mike for my demo account. For the license, this is where the actual license number goes in. We're going to do 11100010001 because I'm a fan of binary. And then for the license authority, this is ultimately where, again, the license authority came from. So for here, it's going to be the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. And now using this dropdown, I can go in and select who's going to be my applicator ultimately. So I'll click Crop Scout Mike. And now this is where I go in and I give him access to different levels of my organization. So depending on what the applicator's role is within your organization, or if it's just a grower applying it to their own farms, this is where you're going to want to say, I want them to have access to either one of my specific farms, or if I want to put them anywhere, I can give them access to my entire organization and say, you can be applied to any spray record anywhere down here. So now I'll go in and I'll click Save to go add Crop Scout Mike in. So now that he's been added, we can go start talking about how we go in and actually generate spray records. There's a couple different ways that we can go do this. One of them is to just go in and start writing and completing recommendations. So to do that, one way to do that is to click on Advice here, under Recommendations, click Add Rec, and we're going to go start adding in some fields here. Again, this works out great for Mike because he has access to all of our fields within our account. So he can use any of those he can be added to a prescription on any of those. So let's go add in a couple products here. I'm going to fill out a little bit of information on these recs, and now I'm going to click add. Yep, that's fine. We can continue without a couple rates. And now I'm going to go in here and I can click create spray record once that's done. But first, let's go create mix, edit, save. Gotcha. So let's click here. So instead of just completing the rec, let's go talk about how we can actually go create the spray record. So you'll see that there were two options there for actually creating the spray record here. One is back on the advice page. Once you've selected any one of your recommendations, you can go to the top of the screen and you can click on this create spray record button. This also lives within the recommendation itself. You can click on it and then either create spray records over here on the side of the screen or at the very top. There's still that create spray records button, and so you still maintain that option right here. So we'll click create spray records. And now we get to the actual page where you can go in and you can start editing all your information relating to the spray record. What's nice here too is that depending on how the recommendation went, you can actually change some information here as well. So for example, if you wanted to go spray the whole field but ended up just being the spot spray, I can go here up to the top of application area, click partial field, and I can go in and put in the actual acreage that was applied. Now I can also go in and I can start adding in the time this was applied for. So we'll say this was put in Saturday at this time, and we wrapped it up a couple hours later. You can also now go in and you can start editing product rates and products in general, again, kind of depending on how that ultimately went down in the field. So let's say we're going to give this 5 fluid ounces per acre. Click save. We're going to hop in here and give this a rate as well. Click save. And now very important as well, this is where I'm going to go and I'm going to add in my applicator. So we'll say that Crop Scout Mike was the one who went in and did this. And then we'll add in our application method. So from one of our pre-existing options, again, all of these are built right into your FarmQA account, but you can go in and say that this was applied via aerial spray and click save. So you can see here now, for both of these recommendations, I've gone ahead and I've created that spray record over here. So I can click on this and it'll redirect me and it'll actually show me my spray record so I can kind of see what was going on with that field. So again, this is, as you can see, this is very similar to our previous page where we kind of saw what the recommendation export looked like. And this is kind of gives you an idea of not only like the total product that was applied, but we're able to show you all the products that were applied, specific start and end times, water volume, application method, and of course, we're tying it all back to that applicator that actually put this down on the field. So hopping back, I want to give you an idea of how we can also expedite this process, kind of in a similar way to how we did templates earlier. I'm going to go click on this, go back to recommendations. Like I hopped over accounts here. I want to zoom back over to my account so we can kind of keep working on this. So let's say now, for example, I've got a recommendation that I want to write for a whole bunch of different fields that I have. We're just going to select a ton of them. They're going to be getting this generic herbicide mix. All of that looks good. Put in my information, but just something that's ultimately going to take us a little bit longer to go through piece by piece and get everything drawn out. So now when I go in here and I click on create spray records, I'm able to go in here and I can do a couple of different things. So let's say that I want these, excuse me, if I still want to go one by one, I kind of use the previous workflow, but this is where I can go in and I can just kind of start deselecting some and say that there were, let's say that there were multiple ways, for example, that these products were ultimately applied. So I have these 4 fields selected. That looks good to me. I'm going to click save. And now, as you can see, I'm just working with these 4 fields. let's say all of these, the acreage was good. They all had the total acreage applied. We're going to go say this was done tomorrow afternoon. And let's adjust this glyphosate rate. Let's say this one got 6 ounces per acre of glyphosate and was applied by Mike aerially. And I'm happy with that. I can now go through here and I can click the apply all button. So what that's going to do now is that applied those settings that I put in to all of these fields that I had currently selected. So now all of these are good to go and they'll have those spray records generated and we'll be happy here. But now for the other fields, I can go here, click none, select all of these. I'm happy here. I can now go in and click save. So now I can go back, create spray records again, and now I have access to the other fields that I was working in. So now again here, it's a very similar workflow. I'm going to be able to go, say these were all done tomorrow afternoon as well. And these only got 5 ounces per acre of glyphosate. So now from here, I'll go in, let's say I applied this one, banded it just for example, click apply all. And now all of these have been applied with that product as well. And I can go in and click save. So now I have spray records done and created for all of these products. Now, from right here, what I can do, I can click on my spray records here, and now I can start to export these and share, and I can kind of show folks what we got going on here. So here, let's go in. Once I want to go export this, I'll just go click on the export button up here, and I can download this to Excel. And we can give you an idea of what that export looks like. Again, Excel exports are generally best if you want to be manipulating the data a little bit, or you want to copy paste this somewhere else that you might be working with. But again, this kind of gives us a row by row breakdown of what we had with that specific spray record. And you can see all this information about like the name and certificate number, application start, end, products, et cetera, et cetera. If you want the more shareable option, you can go here, click PDF. And then, of course, down here on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to be able to get all of your options for how you want to export this properly. So now we'll click export. And you'll see this option, what our exported spray record looks like. So again, you'll see that we have our logo in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. And then down here in the table, we have all that information shared. So again, this can be great for compliance purposes with whatever agency you're working with, or again, for general record keeping, you're going to be able to have access to all of these spray records to see who applied what, where, and when, to keep track of that. Now, of course, this isn't the only place where you can access your spray records. We do have a spray records tab right here where you're able to see all of your spray records from across your fields, at least in the level of the organization that you're currently working in. So I can just go through, access these just the same way. I can click all my spray records and I can download them right here in one fell swoop and get them into one big PDF export if that's ultimately kind of the thing that I'm looking for here. So then I'll click on this. And this is kind of that big loop together option for everything that I've got going on. So you can see here, this is ultimately a list of everything that I applied, who applied it, when it was applied, et cetera, et cetera. And this is across for all of my farms. And then I have this 2 pages that tells me everything that was applied this year, when it was applied and where it was applied. Now, another great place where I like to access this as well is that you can look at this from your field journal. So just as a reminder, a field journal is the summary of everything that's been done with your fields in FarmQA. So that includes plant and harvest dates, scouting reports, recommendations, all that kind of good stuff. That now also includes spray records. So we're going to go hop in here, make sure I find a field that has a spray record. Let's look for 19 Northeast. Pop it under the proper farm. And now when I select this, I want to go over here to the far right-hand side of the screen. That's where you're going to see the events tab. If I clear up a couple of these things, there we go. you have a better idea of seeing where events is. So you'll click on this, and this is where you get access to your field journal. So again, these are all the events that have been kind of loaded in here, and we've now added spray records here as well. So whenever you want a really slick export of everything that you've done within your year that includes spray records, you can access it right here from the field journal. And if you just want to get your spray records from here too, that's a-okay. We're just going to go filter this out, and we're just going to snag our spray records here, and we can click export to PDF, and then we'll get that export there as well. And then again, this also lives in the map tab if you want to access them there as well. Here we go. So here's another way of getting your spray records as well as a combined product total sheet that folks like to see. Again, this is also available through recommendations, but whenever you download these from the field journal, you're able to get all of that. And then to kind of wrap up this talk here on spray records, you can go over and see them here in the map tab. So I'm going to go click on one of my fields. Let's go back to this 19 Northeast field again. And then right here again in the slide out map pane, you can see here we have the events button. So I'll click on events. Once more, I can see everything here, and I'm just going to click export, and this will all download to a PDF you can share. And there we go. So all my recommendations and spray records are wrapped up here in one sheet. So that's an overview of our spray record functionality that we just added in. Again, we're really excited about that, and we're really stoked to see you guys using that here in the coming year or so. So now moving on to other new features, again, kind of thinking about some wrap-up kind of stuff. Since we're just coming off a harvest, we've also made some edits and additions to our harvest upload, specifically being able to add and view yield data. So now when I go in here, whenever I'm harvesting a field, I have multiple options for that. One of them is right here from the map tab. I can click on harvest, and I can put in some information here. I can click on this calendar feed here to kind of say when the harvest date was. And I have multiple options here for how I want to put this data in. If I know what the number is off the top of my head, I can go for a manual import like so. I can click save. And now I have this harvest option here saved with my field. So you'll see here when I go back into the field journal, I'm able to hop in here into the bottom of the screen, and now I have this harvest put in where I see not only my yield in terms of bushels per acre, because that was the unit that I put in, but I'm also able to see my total bushels from across the entire field. Now, this workflow works really well, especially if you're kind of on the run scouting, you can do that as well. But if you just have a rough idea, you can kind of do that here. Now, if I wanted to go, let's hop over to this field. I'm going to click harvest. I can go about the same workflow. There's also an import option. So what you're also able to do is that you can, if you have yield data coming off of John Deere, you're able to import it right here, just dragging and dropping it, and then we'll be able to upload that and then give you the same kind of output. So we're able to read in that file. We can see what your total yield was, as well as an approximate yield in bushels per acre that you can take a look at and store that data as well. Now, if we hop over to the scouting app again quick, I can show you once again how to do this. So let's hop over to one of my fields. Click on this. So here, set harvest. And again, I have the same option here to put in my yield amount. And I can set that. And now that information is saved with this field. So now how to make this actionable is one of the great things we can do is that this yield data is now going to go in and live in your crop rotation page. So once again, to get to crop rotation, you're going to go over here to fields on the left-hand side of the screen and then click on crop rotation. And now this is kind of your command center for seeing everything that's been happening with your fields in terms of what's been planted year after year. What we've added to this is that now you can click on any one of your fields, and on the right-hand side of the screen, we're going to give you a better idea of what's been happening in terms of yield. I'm going to zoom in on this for you guys a little bit, and we can take a closer look at what's going on. So now you can see over here for this first field, for field 111, Here's my crop history. As you go down, you can start to see what your crop history was for that. The year that it was, the year that each piece of data is referring to, the date it was harvested on, and then we also have a range of values. So for all of this, you can see where you performed as well as where all of your beet fields performed for that year. So for example, for 2023, out of all of my barley fields, you see that I was a little below the average right here. And that's also why we have this approximate breakdown here of the red, yellow, green. Red's low, sorry, yeah, red's low, yellow's medium, green is the highest. So this is going to give you an idea of how your fields have been performing, and then you can use that information to go and make that actionable, and then use that in the future in terms of recommendation writing, scouting, those sorts of things. So that's a way for you to kind of go over and get an idea and say, hey, this is what's been happening with my fields. This is a plan that I can have, and I can see kind of where this has been going, where my fields have been producing year after year. So you can see here, this field, for example, was performing well in the past, hasn't been doing so well as of recent, might be time to do something with it. So that's a way that you can make your yield data manageable and usable, and you can kind of get an idea what's been going on there. Another really cool thing that we've added is further improvements to the scouting app in terms of how we let you view and plan out your tasks. So if you remember back at the very beginning, I went ahead and I created a grid sampling task that I was ultimately able to use for some soil sampling. Now what I want to do is I want to go in and I want to show you different ways that you can go through and plan out how you're going to go do your tasks. Because it's one thing to be able to say, yeah, I have all of these kind of sorted in my bin, but it's nice to, very similar to our soil sample task, be able to help you plan a route to get around. So I'm going to get this coordinated here. I can show you what we've got going on. So now in this account, when I go to my work tasks, you can see I have all of my tasks here stored in. There are, of course, filtering options here. I can go and I can search for all of my grid sampling tasks if that's what I'm looking at doing today. I can go and look for all my general soils tasks, things of that nature. But what you're also able to do in the map tab here is you can click on this slide up map pane here on the left. And we have a few new field color options here for you guys. So in the past, we've only been able to color things by crop. So again, all of these, when you click on this I button in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, you're able to go in and you're able to get an idea of which color, pardon me, which fields are planted to which crop based on their color. But now you also have the option to do that for crop varieties, farms, and for tasks. So when you're doing it for tasks, there's a few different options that you have here. So first off, for under task type, you can pick which task specifically you want to be looking for. And again, this works for your primary and your custom tasks here. So let's say that I'm out soil sampling and I want to get an idea of what I have to sample today. We'll do zone sampling. And under here, I have my task conditions. So the task conditions are all preset within FarmQA. These are just kind of give you an idea of what you have in terms of what's been associated to the field. So of course, no tasks means nothing's been assigned to the field. Pending means that there are tasks associated with the field, but they're not in the time frame yet. So when you're creating a task and you say, I want them started and finished by this date, basically that means that none of the tasks associated for the field are within that time frame. So you shouldn't go out and start completing those tasks. Ready, that means that you are within that time frame. So you're either within or past that. Basically, you've hit that start date and it's ready to go get completed. In progress, that's kind of similar to what we talked about earlier whenever we were going through our grid sampling and we kind of showed off, pardon me, we were going through our grid sampling and we had to go leave that for a while. So that just means that the task has been started. We haven't completed it yet, but that's something that still needs to be addressed. So once you're done here, we'll click off this. And now I'm able to get an idea of what I can actually go do in the field. So now if I'm just working in months and farms today, for example, I can go around here and I can access all of these tasks. I can know, for example, field 179, I need to go sample this. field 214, field 106, etc. So really most of what this is here for is that this is just going to give you a better idea of what your work is right now, and it can help plot out a better path for you in terms of where you want your work to go be and how you want to go get that completed. All right. So that's most of what I wanted to cover today here. I know that we're getting done a little bit early, but I wanted to give this time back to you guys. We kind of covered a lot of information today. So I wanted to make sure that we also had ample time for you guys to ask some questions and see if you wanted any clarification on anything. So if you'll please just go post in the chat any questions that you might have or anything you might want us to go over. I'll gladly take those questions and we can walk through those scenarios.